For 10 years, I, John, 35, built my world on a lie. I genuinely believed my marriage to Sarah was a fortress, our love unbreakable, our future secure. That illusion shattered one Tuesday morning. I found her second phone, hidden beneath the laundry, vibrating with a text from an unknown number. Her face, when I confronted her, was a mask of pure terror. That moment changed everything. What shattered it all? Not just a text. Within 48 hours, I discovered our joint accounts were inexplicably drained, a secret apartment lease in her name, and photos of her with another man, a man I knew. All of it, meticulously planned. She was humming a cheerful tune, watering her favorite orchids, completely oblivious to the fact that her perfect facade was about to crumble around her. Before we get into this, please take a moment to like and subscribe. But only if this story truly resonates with you. And drop your location and local time in the comments. I want to know where you are right now. I remember the moment I realized my wife Sabrina was cheating. No lipstick on a collar, no perfume. Just her phone vibrating at dawn and the panic in her eyes. For 12 years we built a life, 2 kids, countless holidays, even a second-hand dining table. From our first move in I thought it was real. I tried, another declined. A call to the bank hit me like a freight train. Our accounts were empty. Even the kids' college fund was drained. That morning I raced home, dread twisting my stomach. He picked up a baseball bat. Who keeps a bat in their luxury car anyway, and strutted toward my truck. I kept the phone aimed at him. He bared his teeth in a grin that was anything but friendly. "Oh, you want a show? Here's your damn show." He was prancing around the office telling everyone Sabrina had finally left her caveman husband. They thought I was out of the picture, a worthless shadow who wouldn't fight back. They were dead wrong. Over the next week I put on the mask of a broken man who accepted defeat. My truck was still operational, though the front was bashed in. It wasn't elegant, but it would be undeniably clear to everyone involved that I wasn't to be trifled with. The next night, Russell and I met near an abandoned lot where some heavy machinery was stored behind a chain-link fence. Russell's cousin was there looking the other way for an evening. We found exactly what we needed, a battered old bulldozer. It roared like a beast. Grayson's eyes went wide with panic. What though the bulldozer metal edge crunched the trunk on the first push, twisting metal screeching in the otherwise quiet night, Grayson fumbled for his seatbelt. He practically fell out of his car, stumbling onto the road. He spun around, arms up as if to ward off the monstrous machine. "You can't do this." He tried to fight back, landing a poorly aimed punch on my shoulder. Adrenaline roared in my veins. I swung the bat, connecting with his side. He doubled over, gasping in pain, eyes shining with tears. Then he hopped down, gave me a sharp nod, and we returned to our vehicles. Grayson lay whimpering in the road behind us, the distant glow of street lights illuminating his destroyed property. Police sirens wailed from far off, but we were already fading into the night by the time word got back to Sabrina. We had vanished. She had no idea who'd help me or how it all went down. They saw me take out the trash around 9:00 p.m. That was enough to muddy the waters, especially since Grayson was too rattled to clearly identify me. It seemed that Russell's cousin had also wiped down the bulldozer. No prints, no evidence, no case so far. While the legal side simmered, I had another front to address: my kids. She threw parties in her condo, living off the money she'd scraped from our accounts. She must have felt untouchable, even though the courts already smelled blood in the water. Grayson, according to rumor, was halfway out the door. Ever since the bulldozer incident, he'd been a nervous wreck, probably cursing. The day he got involved with Sabrina, but she refused to see it. He spat. "Stay away from my sister. She's going to take everything from you and you'll be left crying in a gutter." I laughed quietly, the sound bouncing off the unfinished walls. "Let her try. You're alienating them again." She ignored that, leaning closer, so her face nearly pressed against the gap. You think you're so clever with all your tough guy theatrics. Everyone knows you destroyed Grayson's car. They're just waiting for proof. Pack your bags, kids, you're coming with me tonight. Sabrina baled her fists. No, they're not, I forbid it. I stood my ground. We have a court order. He destroyed my headlights, a couple of his shady buddies slid out from the back seat flanking him. He pounded the bat in his palm. Took you long enough to stop. He said it's time we finish this. I couldn't agree more. I'm no hero. I'm not even a good man, but I promise you'll regret thinking I'm an easy target. His smirk wavered, but he raised the bat. One of his buddies rushed forward swinging a metal pipe. Russell intercepted him with a savage punch. As soon as I'd put Kareem on the ground, they decided they'd had enough. One of them half crawled, half sprinted to the BMW. The other hobbled after him. They peeled away, leaving Kareem where he lay for a moment. I considered leaving him there, but a deeper, more poisonous urge roared inside me. Turns out the judge had grown weary of Sabrina's antics, lying about finances, alienating the children, hosting parties with random men. Every time she tried to paint me as the villain, I had evidence that swung back in my favor. The day we finalized the divorce was anticlimactic. Just a short hearing where the judge officially declared our marriage dissolved. Sabrina arrived in a wrinkled blouse, dark circles under her eyes, as if life had worn her out. 12 years reduced to a stack of legal papers and bitter memories, yet, for the first time in a long while I felt free. I took Emma and Lucas to the diner down the street for celebratory milkshakes. It was a small gesture, but one that reminded me we still had something to look forward to. Life wouldn't be easy. My arm was still sore from where Kareem whacked me with that bat. Moments after the judge declared the divorce final. She leveled a glare at me full of resentment. You'll never amount to anything, she spat. I shrugged, inhaling a steadying breath. Maybe, but at least I'm no longer tethered to a woman who'd do anything for a quick thrill. That morning she looked like a gambler, caught cheating tense, clutching her phone like a secret. I could have confronted her, but after an all-night shift I told myself I'd gather proof first. A quiet part of me wanted revenge. It wouldn't stay quiet for long. I watched. I already knew who I'd find. Kareem stood smug in the driveway. Sabrina, phone in hand, directed movers as they hauled away boxes, furniture, even the kids' books. She spotted me and sneered, "You're a failure. I'm taking the kids and all our money. I deserve better than some broke construction grunt." He swung the bat at my trucks, headlights, glass shattered. He kept going, leaving a vicious dent in the side panel my phone caught. Every second, every swing, every jagged grin of satisfaction on his face. Keep going. I said nice and clear for the camera, that's thousands of dollars in damage. Now maybe more. I used it to quietly move into a small apartment not far from Emma and Lucas's new school. Whenever Sabrina called to gloat or just to threaten me, I acted desperate, apologetic. She lapped it up, going on about how she deserved a better man, how I was a nobody. I recorded her rants whenever I could. Eventually I found out Grayson's daily routine from a mutual acquaintance. When Russell turned the ignition key, I felt my pulse thunder in my ears. Days passed and I meticulously watched Grayson. I wanted him alone, without Sabrina or any innocent bystanders. Finally, one Friday evening, I saw him pull out of the office parking lot in his pristine silver sedan. I followed at a discreet distance just before we reached a remote patch of road under a half-finished overpass. He shouted, voice cracking. I gripped his collar. You see how it feels when someone rips apart everything you've worked for. He tried to pry my hand away, but I was fueled by a year of betrayal. Let go of me. My heart hammered, but I felt unstoppable. Russell moved the bulldozer again, ramming the back of Grayson's car. The frame collapsed like a tin can. I'll pay you back. The story in the rumor mill was that a bulldozer had come out of nowhere, but everyone in her circle knew it was me. Maybe they couldn't prove it, but they knew I half expected Sabrina to call me in a hysterical rage, but the line stayed silent until the next day when my phone finally did ring. Her voice was cold as ice. "You maniac!" she hissed. Sabrina had them in her new condo, but I filed for an emergency hearing. I presented bank statements proving that Sabrina had wiped out our accounts, plus videos of her brother smashing my truck. The judge was no fool. He knew something shady was going on, and although he couldn't confirm the bulldozer incident, he saw that Sabrina wasn't exactly parent of the year. Tensions escalated when I told the court that Sabrina used the children as leverage to hurt me. She was determined that I would bend the knee, or else. Then came the day Kareem tried to ambush me at my job site. I was installing custom cabinetry in a nearly finished home. When he strolled in wearing sunglasses, presumably to mask the bruise under his eye, someone must have clocked him. Recently he made a big show of strolling around, insulting the craftsmanship, cheap wood, he said loudly, tapping on the cabinets. "You have no idea what you two are in for." Kareem's jaw tightened, but he backed off. "This isn't over," he said, echoing Sabrina's words. "I'll make sure you regret crossing us." Then he left, slamming the door so hard it rattled the hinges. I sighed. Sabrina opened the door. "Now make me." That was when her phone rang and she glanced down to see who was calling. Her moment of distraction was all I needed. "You want to call the cops? Go ahead, do it. We'll see who they side with. When they see all this," I gestured to the squalid living room. "Go on, make the call," I said quietly, heart thawing in my chest. I glanced to the side. Russell stepped from the shadows. "We planned this." He held no weapon. That sent him staggering to the ground. The second buddy tried to tackle me, but I brought up the crowbar, catching him in the ribs. He yelped and doubled over. Kareem rushed in baseball bat, whistling toward my shoulder. I pivoted, wincing as it grazed my arm. I strode to his BMW, popped open the trunk and rummaged until I found a small tool kit. Among the tools was a reciprocating saw, probably stored for intimidation. How ironic. I yanked it out and glared at Russell. He nodded grimly. Gone was the fancy makeup, the expensive clothes. She tried to meet my gaze with bravado, but I saw the flicker of defeat behind her anger. "We could have sorted this out," I said just loud enough for her to hear. "If you hadn't tried to take everything." She let out a bitter laugh. My truck was a dented testament to all that had happened, and my finances were precarious. But I had a fresh start in a way that was worth every bruise, every betrayal. As we sipped our milkshakes, Emma rested her head on my shoulder. "Are you happy, Dad?" she asked softly. "Enjoy your life." She looked like she wanted to slap me, or maybe scream. Instead, she turned on her heel and vanished through the courthouse doors. That was the final note of our story. No lengthy epilogue, no tearful pleas. She drifted further, always texting, whispering in the pantry. "Work. Call just Kareem." But I saw the grin. I checked our bank statements, late-night restaurant bills, men's clothing that never showed up in my closet. I glanced at Kareem, who tossed me a poisonous smirk and dropped a box of my kids' belongings in his trunk. "Worthless bum." He sneered. "Sabrina's done with your sorry act. Don't even think about stopping her, or we'll have you AR'd for harassment." For a moment, my vision blurred with rage. "You're really making a case for yourselves." Sabrina's eyes went wide. "Stop, Kareem Hune's filming you." He let the bat fall from his hands as if it scorched his palms, then hissed at me under his breath. I shrugged, ended the recording and stuffed my phone into my pocket. He left work around p.m., usually drove straight to some upscale GWM. Sabrina would meet him there sometimes, or at his place later. This was all I needed to plan the next step in my revenge. One evening my phone buzzed an unknown number. I answered, heart pounding, only to hear Emma's trembling voice. Russell texted me in position. Grayson slowed at a traffic light that seemed stuck on red. Perfect. I accelerated, cutting in front to block him, my battered truck squealing in protest. Grayson slammed on his brakes, honking his horn. The bulldozer engine revved again. Russell expertly manipulated the controls, so the blade pressed down, peeling the side panel of Grayson's car with an ear-splitting shriek. The window shattered glass raining onto the asphalt. "Stop it, you're insane." Grayson's voice rose. Grayson stammered. "I swear to God. I'll give you anything. You want money, an apology, anything." I snarled in his ear, "I don't want your money. You're not going to get away with this." Grayson's pressing charges. "The cops are going to come knocking any minute." I let out a slow breath. "I have no idea what you're talking about. I was home last night alone." She tried to wave that off as a lie. "Hek, an abusive man, Your Honor, I had no choice but to protect my children from his violent outbursts." Louise, my lawyer, calmly slid evidence across the table. My phone recordings of Sabrina calling me worthless, bragging about taking the kids and draining the accounts. The judge's eyebrows rose. "If you're going to sabotage my sister's life, at least do it with better quality, right?" I exhaled, slowly, wiped my hands on a rag and turned to face him. "You shouldn't be here." He stepped forward until we were nearly nose to noose. "You think I'm just going to let you humiliate my sister and get away with it?" Toby emerged from the other room. Concern etched on his face. "That was Sabrina's brother?" he asked. I nodded, "Yeah." "Hune's harmless, mostly hot air." "Sure didn't look harmless," Toby muttered, but he let it go deep inside. I shoved the door hard, snapping the chain. She stumbled back with a gasp. Inside, the living room was littered with half-empty wine bottles. Clothes strewn about. The stench of stale alcohol coated the air. She wavered, rage contorting her features, but she didn't pick up the phone. She just sat watching as the kids hurried to stuff clothes and favorite toys into their small backpacks. When they were ready, I took each of them by the hand. Sabrina followed us to the hallway shouting curses. He didn't need one. The man was built like a bull. Fists like sledgehammers. Kareem's goons shifted uncertainly, but Kareem sneered at Russell, clearly unafraid. "Yet oh so, you brought muscle." Pain flared, but adrenaline kept me going. I swung the crowbar at his wrist. He yelped, the bat falling from his grasp. Russell was busy keeping the other two thugs on the ground, methodically disabling them with powerful blows. Kareem stumbled back, cursing. "Go for it." We wheeled on Kareem's car. I ignited the saw. The blade whining, sparks flew as I hacked into the side panel, letting out all my frustrations with every inch of ruined metal. The sweet reek of scorched paint and shredded steel filled the air. "You deserved it. You're a nobody," I shrugged. "Maybe so, but at least I'm not the one who lost everything." Her lip curled. "Don't think you've won, you're still broke." I hesitated, uncertain how to answer. Happy felt too strong a word for everything we'd been through. "I'm okay," I said at last, patting her hair, "and I'll be a lot better soon." Lucas gave me a wide-eyed look. "Mom said you're a bad guy." A lump formed in my throat. Just two people who had once loved each other, now parted by hatred and irreparable damage. I stared after her for a long, long time. Then I went home to my kids, no matter what she believed I had won, and that was enough. The evidence piled up. We had two kids, Emma 10 and Lucas 8, bright, curious, full of life. I worked non-stop to give them a better future, moving us to a decent home, better schools. Maybe that was my mistake, working so hard I didn't see my marriage rotting beneath me. I thought Sabrina was close to her brother Kareem. Memories of coming home late, of Sabrina ignoring me while she texted Grayson, flickered in my mind. I remembered how She used to look at me when we first got married how proud she was that I could fix any problem around the house that was gone. Now, replaced by scorn. You want a real show, fine, she spat. I guess that's enough for now. I said calmly. By the way, Sabrina, I hope you enjoy sifting through all the trouble you've caused without another word. I walked inside, grabbed the important documents I'd hidden, birth certificates, business records, anything that might help me later, and left them in a safe spot. Sabrina was still screaming when I walked back out, but I ignored her, hopped into my battered truck and drove away. On the other end, Dad, she whimpered moms at Uncle Kareem's. She said I can't come visit you anymore, but I want to. I really miss. I heard a click, then a dial tone. She'd been cut off. What the hell? I heard him shout through the open window as I hopped out of my truck. He recognized me immediately. Are you crazy? Get out of the way. In desperation, I tightened my hold on his shirt, yanking him closer. So we were face to face. You must feel pretty proud. You got Sabrina. You took my money. I want you to remember this moment every time you think you can stomp all over someone's life again. He tried to speak, but instead he coughed, spitting up saliva. My bat hovered near his ribs, a silent threat. Then I gave a short nod to Russell. The bulldozer roared forward, ripping the rest of the sedan side until the car's wheels caned at bizarre angles. She laughed, but it was hollow. Don't think I won't destroy you for this. My lawyer will have a field day. You crossed a line. I clenched my jaw imagining how she looked, probably pacing her new condo with a phone in hand, nails digging into her palm a line. The final blow was a short statement from Emma's teacher describing how Emma had seemed distressed, complaining that Mommy won't let me see Daddy by the time the hearing ended. I had partial custody, a major step up from the zero Sabrina had planned for me. Sabrina glared daggers at me in the courthouse hallway. This isn't over. She snapped, her fists clenched. My coworker Toby was in the next room. I saw him peek around the corner. Alarmed, I gave him a short nod, letting him know I had this covered. You're the one who destroyed my truck, I reminded Kareem. In a calm voice, and I still have the video, he shrugged, a twisted smirk forming. I felt the coil of vengeance twist tighter. Kareem was always popping up in the worst places, spewing threats as if it were second nature. Maybe it was time to properly put the fear of God in him too, but I decided to bide my time. I wanted my next move to be devastating. 2 weeks later, after more legal back and forth, Sabrina tried to block me from seeing the kids again, claiming I was unstable. My kids were nowhere in sight. Where are Emma and Lucas? I demanded. She pointed toward their bedroom door. Yuck, regret breaking into my condo like this. I shut the door in her face without looking back. A few nights after that, with Emma and Lucas safely asleep in my apartment, I heard from Russell, again, he'd caught wind, that Kareem planned to intercept me on my route to a late-night job at a different site, something about wanting to teach me a lesson. My heartbeat quickened at the thought. If Kareem wanted to escalate, so be it. I arranged for a friend to babysit Emma and Lucas, then set off in my battered truck. He taunted. This just makes it more fun. I locked eyes with Kareem. You and Sabrina took my money, tried to take my kids, humiliated me. You thought I'd just slink away and give up. I pressed forward, grabbing him by the shirt collar. My voice shook with rage. You think you're tough swinging that bat at my truck? Let's see how tough you really are. Without your weapon, he tried to jab me in the stomach, so I slammed the crowbar into his thigh. By the time I was done, a gaping wound marred the side of Kareem's precious BMW. Kareem, bruised and, bleeding, propped himself up on his elbows, watching in horror. Stop, stop. I let the saw to a halt, then turned to face him. Next time, I said, voice low, I won't stop with the car. I've got something you can never buy back. I said, nodding toward the kids who waited in the hallway with a social worker, their respect and mine. She tried to retort, but the bailiff signaled for quiet. The judge read the final terms. I had primary custody. Sometimes, buddy, people do bad things when they're hurt. I'm not perfect, but everything I did was to protect you too. Emma reached across the table and put her hand on top of mine. We know, she whispered. In that moment I realized something. He always had something to say, calling me a blue collar. Nobody who wasn't sophisticated enough for her. He bragged about big deals that never happened. Borrowed money he never repaid and flaunted his leased BMW. About 4 months ago, Sabrina's bonding nights with Kareem became routine, but receipts and phone records revealed another name, Grayson, her clean-cut co-worker. I'm done pretending you have any place in our lives. I've got a lawyer, I've got full custody in the bag, and I've already drained every account. You have nothing. I should have stormed up the porch, demanded my kids, but some twisted calm overcame me. Instead, that night I stayed in a rundown motel by the interstate, stinking of stale cigarettes and regret. I stared at the flickering neon sign outside my window, thinking of how easily Sabrina had gutted our joint life. But I wasn't down for the count. I started calling in favors and quietly sorting out what was left of my finances. My personal business accounts, the ones Sabrina had tried to access, were locked down. White. Hot fury coursed through me. That was it. They wanted a war. They were going to get one, because if there's one thing you don't do, it's use my children as pawns in your twisted little game. His eyes darted around as though searching for an exit. I stepped forward, calm as death. Step out of the car, Grayson. He hesitated, gripping the steering wheel. You're insane. You think you won, right? She told me you were an abusive. Nobody. He gasped, eyes wild. Metal screeching in protest. Glass and torn steel littered the street. I leaned in. You messed with the wrong man. Before he could utter another word, I heaved him onto the pavement. I think you crossed that line when you took my kid's college fund. You're a total failure, she spat. I should have left you years ago. The phone clicked. I stared at the empty screen, my heart still pounding, euphoria mingling with fear there'd be a price to pay for what I'd done. I'll make sure you regret everything you've done. I just shrugged. You started this war. I'm just fighting back. Once I had more time with the kids, I tried to keep them out of the crossfire when they were with me. I took them to local parks, taught them how to do basic home repair. You think I care? I've got a dozen ways to bury you if you show that to the police, sure. I said, letting sarcasm drip from my tone, because you're such a successful businessman. What was your last fiasco? The luxury vape lounge that never opened. When I produced the custody agreement for the local precinct, the officers told me I had every right to pick them up at the designated time. That night I went to her condo. She opened the door, a crack, glaring at me through the chain. Go away, she snapped. My kids are scheduled to be with me tonight. I stepped over the threshold, forcing down the anger that threatened to make me do something. Reckless kids, it's Dad. Lucas peeked out. First, wide-eyed, Emma followed her face, pale with worry. They rushed into my arms. Sure enough, around PM I spotted Kareem's BMW tailing me at a distance. I smiled grimly. This was exactly what I'd been expecting. I turned down a quiet stretch of road near Scrapyard, the same place. Russell had access to heavy machinery. You thought wrong. Boo-hoo, Kareem mocked. We took what we deserved. You're just mad because you're a loser with no power. But guess what, you're still a loser. He yowled like a wounded animal, collapsing to one knee. Sweat bead on his forehead. He glared up at me, hatred, burning in his eyes. You'll pay for this. He hissed, spitting at my feet. His eyes flickered with genuine fear. Russell threw down the battered metal pipe he confiscated from one of Kareem's buddies and the clang reverberated in the night. Satisfied, I jerked my head signaling Russell it was time to leave. We climbed back into my truck and drove away in the rear-view mirror. Kareem was on his. Sabrina had limited visitation. The division of property gave me the right to any personal business accounts, meaning everything she drained had to be reimbursed. She was stuck with the debt from the credit card she had secretly opened in my name, once proven to be fraudulent on her part. The child support arrangement was humiliating for her, especially since she'd used the kids as pawns. The last words from the judge were final. No matter how brutal and vengeful I'd become, no matter how twisted with anger I felt, Emma and Lucas were the anchors, keeping me from sinking into total darkness, their small hands, their unwavering trust, that was all I needed to keep going. Kareem's threats eventually dried up. Grayson, humiliated by the bulldozer incident, left the state to seek a new job. Far away. Sabrina, cut off from the money train, had to move to a smaller apartment and take a job she hated. An accountant polished the kind of guy who smelled like expensive aftershave. My blood simmered. Then came the day everything changed. I went to buy materials for work. My card was declined. Fury glowed hot in my chest, but I realized you can't always lash out blindly if you want to truly ruin someone. Sometimes you have to let them keep thinking they've already beaten you. So I stepped back, reached for my phone and began filming. Kareem's eyes bulged. "What are you doing, you idiot? Stop filming." She drained what she could, but enough threads remained intact to keep me afloat. A few days later, I discovered something that lit the match. A vengeance inside me. Sabrina wasn't just sleeping with this coworker Grayson. She had grand plans to move in with him, potentially marry him once the divorce was done. I called my friend Russell a big man with a temper to match. We'd grown up together and he owed me for saving him from some legal trouble. A while back, Russell had a cousin, a construction foreman, who managed heavy machinery at sites across the county. The moment Russell heard what Sabrina and Kareem were doing, alienating me from my own kids, draining my accounts and humiliating me, he asked just one question: when do we start? I told him the plan as it was forming in my mind. "I'm calling the cops, go ahead," I said, sliding a small baseball bat out from behind my back. "I'll be done before they show up." That was when Russell rumbled up behind Grayson's sedan in the bulldozer. The heavy machinery growled, hydraulic parts groaning as he angled the massive shovel blade right at the trunk of Grayson's car. It wasn't personal, wasn't personal. My laugh was cold. "You messed with my kids. You let her drain all our accounts and you call that not personal." I slammed him against the side of my truck. He landed hard, his face contorted with pain, as he struggled to crawl away from the wreckage of his precious car. For a moment I considered pushing this further, crushing more than just his car, but I pulled back. Let him limp away. Fear can be a stronger weapon than any broken bone. Russell backed the bulldozer off the destroyed sedan, leaving it in a twisted smoking heap. But I found it hard to regret not yet trouble arrived. Soon enough a detective came by my apartment with a few pointed questions. Sure, there was footage of a bulldozer on that deserted road, but the driver wore a hooded jacket, face obscured, and the license plates on my truck were conveniently covered with duct tape. My neighbors told him I'd been in all night. Some even testified. Emma played soccer in the evenings and I never missed a practice. Lucas liked building elaborate Lego sets and I helped him construct a dinosaur robot that we both found ridiculously cool. I wanted them to have some semblance of normality, some stability. Yet Sabrina's arrogance didn't die. His hand shot out to shove me in the chest, but I stood my ground. He was tall, but he had the wiry build of someone who rarely did real labor. I spent my days hauling planks of wood and buckets of cement. He was nothing to me. "Don't you dare talk about my business," I replied calmly, though anger turned in my gut. She barked a humorless laugh. "They don't want to see you." I raised an eyebrow trying to peer around the door. I heard movement inside, soft footsteps, likely, Emma or Lucas. Mom said we couldn't go with you anymore. Emma whispered, tears welling in her eyes. She said you got violent, but you're not violent, Dad. I felt something snap inside me. I glared at Sabrina. The silhouette of a backhoe loomed in the flicker of an old street lamp. Kareem gunned his engine headlights, shining in my mirrors. I stopped the truck, got out and waited. Kareem's car screeched to a halt. He emerged, baseball bat in hand, echoing that day. You can't scare me. I let that hang in the air for a second. Then calmly unlatched the tailgate of my truck. Inside was a crowbar. I wrapped my fingers around it and stared at Kareem. I stared down at him, breathing heavily. I already have, thanks to you and Sabrina. Then I swung one final punch. Connecting with his jaw, he toppled onto the cracked asphalt. Russell towered over the other two, who were groaning and clutching bruised limbs. Hands and knees next to the gutted remains of his vehicle. I doubted he'd run his mouth again for a good long while Sabrina tried to spin the story. When she found out, claiming I was a sociopath who destroyed poor Kareem's car. But with Kareem in the hospital for a hairline fracture in his wrist and a nasty bruise on his face, not to mention the prior recordings of him trashing my truck, the cops were more inclined to see it as a mutual escalation. My lawyer, Louise, was already in the process of negotiating final custody arrangements. The marriage is dissolved. There is no longer any shared financial obligation beyond what is ordered in the settlement. Sabrina didn't cry, didn't beg. She just stared straight ahead, as if refusing to acknowledge reality. I walked out, my footsteps, heavy but a strange sense of relief blooming in my chest. In time, the gossip died down, replaced by new dramas and new headlines. People who had once whispered behind my back about how Sabrina left me for a better man changed their tune. Once they heard about all the betrayal and deception, some apologized, others just drifted away, embarrassed. They'd ever believed her stories, but I didn't care about any of them anymore. The last day I spoke to Sabrina was just outside the courthouse.